What a week it's been. We're off the heels of the NBA All-Star game, but I'm going to just go ahead and say we got athletes talking crazy. The ones that y'all support, the ones that y'all go out and watch, the ones y'all consume their content. Yeah. So let's just get right into it. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Breaking Through Glass Ceilings. I'm your host, Brian H. Waters. This show brought to you by Six Heart Media Productions. Folks, before we get into it, let me remind y'all, if y'all are fans of the Beyond the Gates soap opera, well, you can catch each and every week, you can catch a recap from myself and Queen PR, where we break down the latest and craziest, hottest, most dramatic storylines on daytime television. But now I'm going to break down some crazy happenings in the world right now, I should say. Let's start off with Cam Newton. Can somebody take his microphone? So recently, first and foremost, y'all know a few weeks ago, he talked about he couldn't have women just be platonic friends, right? Now, of course, this was clipped up. So y'all know me doing my research. I went and found the original in the full context, and it's still not good, basically what he was saying, because ultimately he was saying he don't just have friends. There's very few friends he has. His teammates, his ex-teammates aren't his friends. So pretty much if they not doing business with him and having a business relationship with him, this is for the fellas, then what are they doing? And then as far as the women, same thing. It's either business or sexual. Because he said if he's around them long enough, he's going to find something that brings them to him, and he's going to be attracted to them. And I'm sitting there watching this, and I thought it was the most asinine thing. I was like, okay, I watched the whole thing in context. It's still bad. You mean, and the ladies who was on the show, I forgot their name, so I apologize. But the ladies on the show basically said, like, so you're still making it as if women are objects, and that's the way I see it. He's making it look like women are objects. How can you not be platonic friends with somebody of the opposite sex, right? If y'all look at my friends list, they're beautiful. A lot of my friends are beautiful. Now, there were times where I do have friends that I've shot my shot years ago. Like, oh, you know what? You wise up, like, oh, glad it didn't work out. I'm glad we are friends instead of have tried something romantically or physically or whatever, and then it don't work. But then there are friends who, and I do have some who I know are beautiful, but there was nothing ever that attracted me to them, whether we were both off limits or it was just something I knew immediately. I don't want to cross that line. I don't look at him that way. And I think, he was devaluing women. And if that wasn't bad enough, that's why his mic need to be taken. In between, earlier this week, his show with Ashley Nicole Moss, 106 in Sports, was canceled. And Cam went and said, he basically said his show wasn't canceled. That was a job. It was a network. And I thought it was disrespectful to the craft. As a member of the Baltimore Association of Black Journalists and the National Association of Black Journalists, I know plenty of people who would kill for that spot. People who would have taken ownership of that spot, who would have said, okay, this is my show and I'm going to make it be able to be the best show possible. And to be full transparent, I had a show in the Ringer and, the show's no longer happening, but I never said Ringer Wrestling Worldwide or Wednesday Worldwide wasn't my show. It's the Ringer show and I'm just a host. I never addressed it that way. So for him to say that, I thought it was just disrespectful to all the people. You know what I mean? let's call it for what it is. This is Uncomfortable Conversations, right? I've been following Ashley Nicole Moss for some years on social media. I've been very familiar with her work. And, you know, she is an incredible sports mind when it comes to sports, right? When you watch her NFL content or NBA content or watch the tweets, you know that she knows what she's doing. And when Cam said that, I was like, oh, he has a woman who was his co-host. And I do believe she tweeted something like, this is awkward. And, you know, when the show announcement happened, I don't know, man. It didn't seem as if, and I'm not going to say Cam's comments about women was what ultimately led BET to pull the plug, but something just didn't seem right. And I could see when he says he's not friends with people, I saw like, okay, that doesn't look like a genuine friendship. You know, I've had shows with people or coverage with people who I consider friends. You know what I mean? Shows that still continue to this day and shows that don't. So I thought that was interesting. And then nothing else for him to do than to put his foot in his mouth. And when he said that women lose their value after they have kids. And I was like, what are they, cars? He was talking about his child's mother. And he said, you know, he told her if the man that she wants to settle down with doesn't accept her for her and her children, then that's not the man for him. Okay, understand that. But to say you lose your value, I thought that was ridiculous, you know? And I know there's people who will say, well, I never want to be a baby mother. And it's different circumstances, but that doesn't make you lose your value. Shoot, I've been divorced twice, and I would not say that makes me lose my value. I have 2 children. Would never say, oh, I lose my value. And we don't, as a society, we don't say that about men, right? We don't say that about men, but to say that about a woman, and you have people like the late Kevin Samuels who would say that, oh, a high value woman told a woman, oh yeah, you know, you got to settle because you got kids. Like, it took 2 people to tango. You know what I mean? And I've heard I hear a lot of misogyny with that. You know, if a woman is, you know, has multiple children, baby father may or may not be in the picture, they're automatically ready to discredit and downgrade the woman rather than checking the man who did the disclaimer. You know what I mean? I mean, motherfuckers like Future, they love his music, but it's been on record and most people have said and all, you know, that he is a suck father. He's a suck ass father. He sucks at being a dad. And we publicly see Russell Wilson taking care of the child that he fathered with Sierra. We don't say, oh, you know what? I can't rock with this dude because this is talent, right? We like his music. You know, I refuse to listen to his music. I don't give a fuck about Future, you know, because if to openly see somebody now, granted, it's one thing when you don't see it, but to openly see somebody not take care of their kids, can't rock with it. Can't support it. You know, you won't get a stream, won't get $1 out of me. And, you know, it's so sad. Like I said, you look at Cam Newton and you just see somebody constantly putting a microphone, giving him an opportunity, giving him a show. He's on First Take and all this other stuff. And you start to say, is he really speaking of substance? And you're talking to somebody who was a huge Cam Newton fan who, when he didn't dive after that football during the Super Bowl, defended him, the last time I experienced a Super Bowl, like the loss that really like irritated and bothered me was when the Panthers lost, when the Falcons lost. You know, I'm a Ravens fan, but you know, there's other teams I like and I hate the Patriots. So when the Falcons lost, it was like, oh, come on, y'all really let this happen. But like, I was like, man, Cam was right there. This was the guy. He was supposed to be the second, or I should say the third black quarterback to win the Super Bowl. And he didn't. But to see him now going out here talking reckless all the time, when are we going to just mute the mic? When are we going to mute the microphone? Right. Let's talk Tony Clark. So baseball fans out there know who he is. Tony Clark used to be a first baseman in the league. Then he went on to become the Major League Baseball Players Association director, obviously a powerful position as we in the negotiation terms right now. Hopefully there will be a baseball season because I want to know who can save baseball if they go on strike. 94, you could say the sport was saved. Many people would say Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire with the home run chase, but you can also say that, there was a plethora of players like your Ken Griffey Jr.'s, your Frank Thomas's, your Barry Bonds, your Tim Salmons, your Cal Ripken Jr.'s out there. They had superstars. They marketed their superstars. And when baseball was in the news, it was for good reason. Now, I said news for bad reasons. Because Tony Clark stepped down, resigned from his position because, get this, he had an inappropriate relationship with his sister-in-law. So I was sitting there and I heard about this. I saw tweets. And before I revealed the answer, for those who do not know, I said, what is worse? Because it's bad. Oh, it's really bad. But what's worse? Sleeping with your brother's wife or your wife's sister. And the more I thought about it, I give an edge to the brother's wife, and here's why. The wife's sister is horrible. You take under a covenant and you become one with your wife, right? But you break that covenant, you're done, you move on. You guys can pretty much erase each other out of each other's lives. With the brother, that is your brother for life. Y'all laid in the same womb or had the same father or both. After all this is said and done, y'all still brothers. So to sleep with your brother's wife, like I said, both of them are horrible, but I gotta go with that edge. You are disrespecting your sibling, and it's horrible. So I think it's ridiculous. And I think that the more and more, it's like, it really sucks that this happened. And it sucks that, bad timing. We talked about this on the Wrestling Around Now podcast last night. Bad timing. And you know what? Here's another thing about baseball, because I really don't want them to go on strike. And like I've always said, they got to market their superstars, because this should not be the biggest story in baseball. We should be talking about getting this agreement done and then getting ready for spring training. The Baltimore Orioles looking like they're going to come back. The addition of Pete Alonso. You got Jackson Holliday, who's going to start off on the injured list. You're going to have Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, Samuel Basallo, all of these people. But we talk about Tony Clark, man. Yeah. But let's move on. Hey, real quick, if you are a fan of Beyond the Gates, well, make sure you are subscribed, to the channel, but also check out the playlist where Queen PR and I do a deep dive every week, as well as recaps on the brand new hit show, Beyond the Gates. Check out Loving Them Gates. Boy, Michael Jordan. So, this is a conversation everywhere. Michael Jordan was seen on video patting a little boy down on his back and his rear end and his leg. Now, I saw that this young man was at the Daytona 500, right? And if anybody knows, the Daytona 500 is NASCAR's Super Bowl, right? And Tyler Riddick, who's on Michael Jordan's team, won the Daytona 500. So let's equivocate this to Michael Jordan doesn't have stock in the Hornets anymore. But for the sake of this conversation, the Hornets win the NBA Finals. And if LaMelo Ball has a son, Michael Jordan standing there and they dump ice on him because everybody's excited. And then Michael Jordan starts patting him down. Now, I don't know. I do think people have gotten more comfortable with two things, right? We gotten comfortable that's looking on social media and jumping right to what we're seeing, which is understandable, right? But then also thinking the worst in people and celebrities. But then we also got comfortable in society sometimes, I guess, understanding that cameras are everywhere. Now, you see the people who are Michael Jordan's side saying, why would he be touching somebody else's child? Why would he even be looking at, patting this little boy down? And I'm like, yeah, that's true. Why would he be doing that? So I don't know. I'll say this. I don't think Michael Jordan was doing anything foul. If it's, ice or water, if you look the way, I hate to say this, but you look the way he's grabbing him, it do look like, okay, it was innocent. And I have a hard time believing, as powerful as Michael Jordan is, that a white man would be quick to defend Michael Jordan after he won the Daytona 500 and do that at the risk of his son being in an uncomfortable position. That is my take on that. Maybe I don't know if y'all heard, Sunday Night Baseball is moving to NBC, and the WNBA and the Women's National Soccer League will be on ESPN on Sunday nights. So big shout out to them. I'm happy for the WNBA to get this spot. I hope they get the negotiations done right because we want to see some basketball. I mean, we got Unrivaled and I'm loving that, but why not be able to look? The women are playing basketball all year round. Why not be able to see it? So I'm happy about that. I'm happy that honestly Sunday Night Baseball is going to NBC, even though the NBA reminds me there are way too many streaming services, streaming accounts, etc. Like when you're trying to keep, it's getting to the point, it's hard to keep up with everything. You know what I mean? And I think that's what it kind of hurts the league. But hopefully in baseball, they kind of keep it to a couple. We'll see. But yeah, speaking of ruining the league, LeBron James, the Discord continues. Laker fans, some of us, including myself, want him gone. But the conversation that I've been having here has been edified when we hear people talk about he ruined the dunk contest and All-Star Weekend. And I want to give a huge shout out to Mariah C. Rose, Jalen Rose's daughter, does hoops for hotties. And, I love watching her content, because she broke everything down, like the things I've been saying. And she used the words I didn't use, and that's psycho. LeBron's not a psycho. And that's what ruined the All-Star game. And I've been saying this, and I had a good conversation with my sister Renee. But when you look at what LeBron hasn't done, right, since he got in the league, it was fun watching with Cleveland. But the moment he went to Miami, everything changed. Yes. And this is the conversation me and Renee had. And then I know this will get into the player empowerment part versus the non-player empowerment. Shout out to Renee P. Washington. But she said the big three of the Celtics ruined it, right? Now, they were 29, 31, and 32, right? LeBron James was like late mid-20s, him and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. They created the big three, took substantial amount of money less, and they were determined to play together, right? Dwayne Wade says because he saw Kobe winning championships and he wanted another one. LeBron James didn't know how to win in Cleveland, so he had to go join Dwayne Wade. Chris Bosh was a free agent. He went and formed with them. And I think that, what also sucks is because they went to the finals 4 straight years. It was like, oh man, you knew this was going to happen. And it didn't feel earned. When the Celtics, they went the first year They got bounced the second year. I know it was injuries. Then they went back, right? But the Celtics did feel beatable. The Heat, they absolutely felt unbeatable. And because LeBron wanted to be buddy-buddy, right? Then you go to the All-Star games, the lack of defense, right? I listened to KG talk about the All-Star game. He won the MVP when I believe it was Michael Jordan's last All-Star game. He talked about how, you knew you was got to play these guys in the playoffs. So it wasn't time for that buddy-buddy shit. And LeBron James led and created a culture that to the point where you have a Dylan Brooks or somebody like that, you're looking at him like he's crazy. Like, why are you acting like that? We love each other here. So he took that fire, that dog out, and, even with the slam dunk contest, not even, saying he was going to join, but didn't. And I know something came out last week where Vince Carter said he was offered $1 million. It was him, Tracy McGrady, Kobe, and I believe it may have been LeBron, but they were all offered money to be in the dunk contest, but they opted not to. And so you sit there and you're like, well, okay. But if LeBron would have did it, right? Yes, it would have been another accolade. But again, Anthony Edwards, all these people that look up to him would have done that. You know what I mean? Same with the NBA All-Star game. The whole point was when people say it wasn't competitive because nobody's going out there playing defense. I looked at the old Pro Bowls. A Pro Bowl is something else that's ruined because they put it in between the Super Bowl and AFC Championship, NFC Championship Sunday. And because of that Championship Sunday, that in-between break now being the Pro Bowl, where the Pro Bowl was after. So it was cool seeing John Elway play the Super Bowl and then play his last game at the Pro Bowl, right? Yeah, you could ease up on the hits a little bit, but come on now. Like, it was like watching those old Pro Bowls, seeing Steve Young at quarterback throwing to Keyshawn Johnson. Like, that's what was fun about football. Now, if you want a good Pro Bowl, you have to watch the games. Before we get out of here, I want to talk about two more things. First, let's talk about Chris Paul. Chris Paul officially retired, and I think it was a miscarriage of justice. When you think about one of the greatest players of all time, you have to include Chris Paul in that conversation, right? The cover guy for NBA 2K8. And I remember, that was around a time where the New Orleans Hornets was making noise. They was a fun team to play with on the video game, obviously, but they were making noise. They was, in the playoffs, they was competitive. Obviously, they didn't win. He goes to the Clippers. The Clippers are no longer a joke. The Lakers are on that downfall, unfortunately. I remember that very well. And people are saying the Clippers were title contenders. And then after it didn't work there, he was in Houston where he had them in the conference finals, him and James Harden. It didn't work there. They sent him to OKC. I think I got that timeline right. But even when he was in OKC, it was almost as if he was sent to crumble. And he had them in the conversation. I believe they got as high as a 7th seed. And this is the post Westbrook and Paul George and Melo era. But he had people still talking about OKC. Then he goes to San Antonio. He kind of get right there, whatever. And then, obviously went back to the Clippers, and for some reason it didn't work out. Now, I didn't get a chance to watch him on 7 p.m. in Melo, which I will, but I think Chris Paul was done dirty. I didn't understand why the Lakers didn't go get him. LeBron James is one of his best friends. I don't know why that didn't happen. Would have certainly loved to see it, but that also going to show you where LeBron James' head is as far as wanting to win and whatnot. And I promise y'all, I don't be trying to hate on the guy, but it's just, I'm looking at my favorite team, my favorite franchise, and I was excited when we got LeBron James. I was excited for him to go back to Cleveland just to be able to see him do something that was, historic, bring a championship there. And I'm grateful they brought a championship to my favorite team. But now it's just like, bro, what are you doing? You just kind of, it's the Luka Doncic era. I felt this way when him and AD there's no way you have on paper 2 top 5 guys at the same time and they only get 1 championship. And last but not least, Kevin Durant, allegedly, his burner account was leaked. Now, the reason why I think this is true, because some people saying it isn't, When he said, I'm not here to talk that Twitter nonsense. I mean, if it was true, he wouldn't have denied it, right? But on the burner account, he was saying some things about some of his current teammates. And I know Draymond Green said it best. He's going to have to address that. I just wish at this point, I don't know why KD has a burner account. Just say what you guys say. You know what I mean? But this could be detrimental because when you think about if he's saying stuff about his teammates where they look like they was getting right and heading to, this could deter everything, And I wonder who leaked the burner account. Like, really? Like, who leaked that? Obviously somebody had to know when they was talking to KD, but yeah, we know one time he didn't switch accounts when he was supposed to. And that's when we found out he had a burner account, when he basically said exactly reason why he left OKC. But I think burner account gate is something crazy. And I feel, I kind of feel for those guys. But I think with Kevin Durant, is he another one kind of wow, his welcome? His legacy is very complicated because he definitely has the, you try to collect Kevin Durant jerseys, you're going to spend a lot of money, because he's played for so many teams. And it's just like, wow, he has to be the greatest player to play for the most amount of teams. And when I think about different players, it has to be Kevin Durant, and Chris Paul's in that conversation as well, because who do you really associate Kevin Durant with? Do you associate him with the Thunder because he kind of jumpstarted the franchise, got him to the first finals and everything? Or do you associate him with somebody else? I mean, I associate him with the Nets and maybe not the Suns or the Rockets. So do you associate him with the Warriors? Am I missing a team? I'm wondering, so I don't know, but who knows? But ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for this week's episode of Breaking Through Glass Ceilings. I want to appreciate everybody who tunes in to this show. Thank you for subscribing to Six Heart Media. Thank you. We are almost at the 1,000 mark, but you can support this show. The super chats and stuff are on. The super likes, being a member. We're going to have some cool things and some exclusives coming up. So, but I have to remind you folks, do not let anyone place a ceiling above your success. So long, everyone. Thank you for joining this episode of Breaking Through Glass Ceilings. For more uncomfortable conversations, for some interviews, exclusive interviews, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button. Check out the playlist. We got this channel perfectly organized for you.